Welcome back to the second part of today's lecture on China's business culture. In China, we are in modern times now, so you don't really have to worry too much about the need to wear traditional clothing on special days. But for doing business, you have to be conscious on what you wear and what not to wear to a meeting or generally to work. Here are 4 things I want you to be aware about to make that proper first impression at your first business encounter in China. We'll first start off with clothing attire. As you can see in this picture shown here, this attire would be defined as business casual. Sometimes a necktie is needed, but for the very formal occasion, generally speaking, locals here don't wear it. As for women, wearing a power suit would be fine. Regarding colors, do not wear anything too bright that could blind someone's eyes out. Keep it neutral, no dizzy patterns, and simply conservative looking is preferred. About brands, don't worry too much about it. Don't make it excessive, such as with Gucci or LV logos bleeding all over your attire. That's also not professional. It might come off as arrogant. But if you do wear a luxury brand, people in China will notice because China has reached the #1 market as a consumer for luxury products. And if you wear a luxury brand, it could give an indirect hint at your level of success in your line of business. So use it sparsely to your advantage when the time calls for it. But always keep it subtle, especially if the person who you will be meeting are, for example, government officials, because they prefer to dress more low-key, so you'll have to do the same. In Chinese culture, there's a saying that you never want to dress higher than the person who is higher than you, so be humble. If there's anything that you can take away from this lecture about business culture, in China, modesty goes a long way. Next up, gloves. Normally, you wouldn't wear gloves every day going anywhere, but once winter hits, and in northern China, it does get pretty cold because it's 4 seasons here. Wearing gloves to keep your hands warm is a good idea. But in China's business culture, when greeting someone for the very first time, it's considered rude to shake hands with your gloves on. Please take them off. You don't see boxers shaking hands with their gloves on, right? Next, hats and sunglasses. During the summertime, with the sun rays beaming brightly outside, you may be thinking of wearing sunglasses and possibly with a hat too. Perfect attire for the beach. But this lecture is not beach culture. Regarding business culture, especially in China, before you meet someone for the first time, take off your sunglasses. It doesn't matter how bright it is outside. If you are greeting someone outside the restaurant or office building before entering and it's sunny out, it's better to take off your sunglasses first before you shake that person's hand. Because why are you concealing your eyes while the other side exposes his or hers to you? It's not a one-way conversation. A lot of people forget that communication is not limited to just speaking orally through your mouth. Your actions and what you do and wear is also a form of communication. So by keeping your sunglasses on, it's like a shield blocking the other side from seeing your eyes. And eyes are a very important part of body language. Regarding hats, please take them off once you're indoors. That shows respect. These accessories have their good reasons for using them, such as blocking out the ultraviolet rays. But don't continue using them to block out people who wants to communicate with you. It doesn't make sense to continue having them on in lieu of having a good first impression in your first business encounter in China, right? Next part of dress code in China is jewelry. At first, I didn't think I would need to add this part into this lecture, but in my other course on teaching cross-cultural communications, I thought about it and why not? Based on a famous social psychologist, Gerald Hofstadter, there is one cultural dimension that is widely seen across the globe, and that's indulgence versus restraint. This theory is based on two different types of society. One where they fulfill their desires to enjoy life, having fun, expressing themselves freely, while the other society prefers to suppress that self-gratification need. In China, it leans more towards the latter. Remember how I mentioned about modesty goes a long way? Well, it applies here too. Limit your jewelry accessories on your body, especially in China's business culture. In the next category of business etiquette in China is dining. You will be quick to realize that most business deals are handled over food and drinks. In the office, that is more reserved for presentation and photo ops. At restaurants, detailed conversations happen here. First off, meeting anyone for food and drinks may appear informal. However, in China, every meeting, no matter where, must be dealt seriously by being on time. There's a universal saying how time is money, and in China, if you don't respect time, how will you respect your business? Also, the traffic in China, especially the larger cities, is frequently congested, so always prepare extra time for your commute. My rule of thumb is to leave a 40-minute buffer zone and an extra hour for the bigger cities in case of some emergency or accident happens on the road. Next topic is my favorite topic because I love to eat. But unfortunately, we're not going to talk about what kind of delicious food you'll be eating. We're going to talk about the etiquette surrounding food. Food culture is very, very big in China. And mixing that up with business culture, you have something very large to deal with. Remember the seating arrangements that I mentioned earlier in this lecture? Well, here, once you are finally seated, never reach for the food first. You, as the foreigner, is the most likely not the host, so you do not take the first action. In other words, you don't take the first bite. The dining tables in China are mostly round, and there's a reason for that. It creates a very dynamic eating atmosphere. It's easier to converse with people sitting beside you, in front of you, and all around. And it's almost always loud in a very lively scene where people are happily eating and drinking together. Whereas a rectangular table limits your conversation to everyone at the table. You're stuck in a linear fashion than being able to observe and connect with all those around you like a round table. With this, in China, the party or main event is usually at the dinner table and ends when dinner is over. Whereas Western parties typically begin when dinner is over because you never really got to connect much with others at that rectangular table. Hence the term Americans often use, after party. At the Chinese dining table, there will be one common sight that differs from Western dining. It's that there will always be a lot of food served. In the West, you have your appetizer, main course, and dessert, right? And that main course is usually an individual serving cooked to your order. In China, we have multiple dishes that serves like all main courses as one. This reminds me of a joke I would say to my mom as a kid. Are we having dinner 3 right now? On the same day. For those main courses, sometimes there's that special highlighted dish, such as if you're in Beijing, the Beijing roasted duck would be the main event dish that the host will proudly showcase. Going to Inner Mongolia, you'll be presented with their local specialty dish, which is roasted mutton. Sometimes, there will be certain dishes that you can't easily make out what it is, but try every food that is given to you. That is respect, in which in China is called giving face, which I'll share more with you in detail later in this lecture. Giving compliments on what you're eating is also important too, which is another way of giving face. If you have allergies to any particular food, please kindly tell the host and politely refuse the food you are allergic to. If there's something that you like and want another serving, only select the food that is closest to you. A rule of thumb here is not to reach for food beyond your arm's length at the table. That would be considered rude if you do so. The food will eventually make its round to you because all the dishes are sitting on a secondary round table that is on top of the larger round table. This secondary round table can spin. As cool as it may appear to see a spinning table, please never spin it very fast like it's the Wheel of Fortune. And if someone else is reaching for food, never move the table. Allow the person to select his or her food first before turning the table around. While enjoying your delicious meal, there will be drinks available to complement it. Many different kinds, ranging from tasteful water to the sweetness of juice or soda, to the healthiness of tea, to the activity loving of alcohol. When tea is served in China, it's always served in a teapot. Never serve yourself first. If you're going to pour tea, pour for others first before you pour for yourself. And when you place the teapot back down on the table, the nose of the teapot, never allow it to point anybody at the table. Move the nozzle to point outward, away from anyone. And before you take a drink, it is customary to hold your cup with two hands, like the picture you see here on the slide, and gently give a toast by touching cup with the other person's. If it's alcohol being served, never drink alone. Always toast your glass before you take a drink. Typically, at the dinner table, before anyone takes a drink, the host will make a toast with everyone by saying a little speech, and then performs a gesture by raising his or her glass and drinks it. After the host drinks, then you drink. In southern China, which is my hometown region, if someone is pouring a drink for you, you would gently tap the table 2 or 3 times with your first 2 finger joints, the ones closest to your knuckle, as a sign of gratitude when someone pours you a drink. This customary habit comes from ancient China when the emperor wanted to leave the palace but does not want to let any ordinary person know that he is the emperor. So he would dress in normal attire because the emperor usually wears yellow as the sign of his royal status. Going out with one of his aides or advisors, when having a drink, he would pour it for his servant. But knowing that the emperor is the one who never serves drinks, the servant wants to express his thanks by going on his knees and bowing. But obviously, doing this in public will create a scene. So how to give thanks to the most subtle way was to fold your fingers, where the first 2 are bent like legs, where the knees are bent around and tapped towards the table like it was the ground. Interesting, right? This was a story told when I was young, and I remember this into adulthood, where it still applies in today's business culture in China. The last but not least important part of business etiquette comes down to one of the actual most important, social management. Here, we have guanxi, which translate to relationships, and 面子, which is about honor, respect, and giving face. And lastly, about gift giving. Let's take a look at each one. Business culture in China highly revolves around relationships, like how I mentioned earlier, where Chinese people prefer to do business with friends than with strangers. It's because becoming friends involves a very important element in building a solid relationship, and that is called trust. If a Chinese business individual meets you and you do not have that trust built yet, it doesn't matter how much money you have to contribute into the business collaboration, the deal will not go through because that person does not know you well enough. Because China is a Confucius-based society, where fostering relationships and keeping it harmonious is crucial, you need to prove yourself that you are reliable and honorable by adding all the previous details I have shared with you in this lecture thus far, which are a part of building your name into a trustworthy one. And speaking of harmonious, During the course of conversation at your business meeting or dinner, and there's a topic of disagreement, never speak your opinion directly that you disagree. The person who introduced you to the host or to the person of interest, that person will be the one who you can voice your concern and have him or her relay that opinion to the person you disagree with. This keeps the relationship in balance without offending anyone because you want to save face, which is 面子, that I will discuss more on the next slide. Last but not least, before I move forward, never forget the people who help you. Even the people you want to do business with is the main individual you want to speak with, but there is always someone who will introduce you to that key contact. That person, do not forget him or her as well. In the US, there is something called "there's no such thing as a free lunch." In China, this saying is applied here in a similar manner where if someone helps you, you would need to do the courtesy favor of helping that person out in the future. If you don't help that person, especially if he or she asks for it, do not expect that you will get the same level of support later on. According to another ancient Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu, he said, if you would take, you must first give. This is the beginning of intelligence. Therefore, relationships in China are based on a mutual give and take principle, where returning favors help keep that special bond intact. Now, onto the most simple appearing yet most sophisticated topic, which is called 面子 in the Chinese language. 面子 translates to face, but it's more than that literal meaning. It deals with honor and respect to oneself and to others. As we now know that China is a Confucius-based society, and where I speak about having a harmonious relationship to great lengths in this lecture, giving face to another person is giving that respect. And when you respect another based on your words and actions, you are building respect upon yourself. The more respect you give, the more respect you'll earn. Communicating in China is all about giving that face. And when someone feels you have respected that person at a high level, you will step into that realm of relationship building, and trust will gradually form. Frequent compliments to others and self-deprecating remarks are common ways to uphold that 面子. Always showcase a positive appearance, and when you want to share your true feelings, maybe you're unhappy about something or in disagreement, you never do so directly that may risk harming someone's 面子. You would keep it to yourself or to your confidant and have that person indirectly share your opinions behind the scenes to continue the business discussion. Again, this is to keep harmony. It may sound time-consuming, but this is how business culture works in China. If you are too direct and offend someone's 面子, then your own 面子 level will, so to speak, drops and the business deal will drop as well. How great of your business idea depends on how great you are as an individual. Mannerism, which falls under etiquette, plays a major part in business culture in China. And if you can get this right, then your path to a successful business venture is on your horizon. The next equally important part of social management is gift giving. Gift giving in China is a common, polite gesture to do, especially in its business culture. Many foreigners ask me, what is the best gift to give in China? I always ask them back, what is something that is not too expensive but thoughtful from your home country to give as a gift that people will appreciate? That is the ideal gift to give in China. When you are meeting someone for the very first time, you never want to give anything that's too expensive. this will put pressure on the receiver that you are indirectly demanding something in return. Thoughtful gifts, such as relating to their hobbies if you know it, or something useful or nice for their profession or personal life, are suitable gifts. If you're still unsure, generally safe gifts to give are chocolate, alcohol, souvenir items like keychains are okay. Now, when I say something like chocolate, I'm not talking about a chocolate bar from your convenience store or a can of beer from your local 7-Eleven. I'm talking about something that's more presentable. Don't overdo it, but also at the same time, don't underdo it. Remember about the dress code lecture we had earlier? You don't want to overdress, nor do you want to dress too less for the occasion. Same thing applies with gift giving. Lastly, be humble with your gift. Hand it with two hands and don't brag about it when you give it to the recipient. You may share the history of your gift if it's a popular item from your home country and the receiver might not know about it, such as maybe ice wine from Canada or red wine from Napa Valley in California. Not a lot of people may know them outside of its native region that they are popular items. But just like trying to maintain a modest character, your behavior would have to reflect that as well. Don't go on with saying, "Did you know how hard it was for me to get this ice wine? I had to reach the coldest part of Canada in person to get it." That's a little unnecessary. As what my parents told me before, the smaller delight you put yourself in, the bigger the sunshine that will come out for you. That's humility, and it always worked in China's business culture. That concludes this introductory lecture on China's business culture. I hope you enjoyed it and that it was informative to you as we await your future presence to establish a harmonious relationship with my fellow Chinese business leaders here and to grow successfully together. Thank you.